So what should a day look like for somebody if they were going to eat for their brain? Like, like a breakfast, lunch, dinner. What would that look like?
Yeah. So, first thing, like a good day for brain health and mental fitness, you're going to wake up and get some early morning light, probably check in, especially if you're waking up super hungry, right? Or overwhelmed. Like it sort of, it tells you some data about how you did in the last 12 hours. So if you're waking up, like everyone's had that experience, like they drink some red wine and they wake up like ravenous,
Right.
right? And so, but you want to wake up not ravenously hungry. um I think some checking in. I think people debate breakfast up and down, and I eat breakfast sometimes. I would say I recommend a kind of few set of foods that I think a smoothie that has nuts in it. So you're getting protein and usually kefir. So that's a fermented dairy product. So you're getting a bunch of these good bacteria for your gut. You're getting some protein and fats. Like I think the mistake people make with smoothies is they have sugar bombs as opposed to like a lot of plants, fats, and proteins. I'm a big egg fan. A few times a week. I think eggs are they're a perfect protein. They're a low calorie food, and they have every single nutrient needed to make a brain cell.
Mm.
Because a chicken's brain cell is different a little bit than your brain cell, but it's a brain cell nonetheless, and it's functional. And if you think about it, everything to make that brain cell is inside the egg. It's, I guess, a little gross for some people, but I'm here in the country. We have chickens, so I don't know. I just think
I'm an egg fan.
it's a cool thing to think about, right? Everything you
Yeah,
need to make a brain cell is in an egg.
yeah.
And there aren't a lot of foods that are a source of B9 and B12 and long chain omega-3 fats and magnesium and iodine and all that stuff. Um, so I'm a fan of oatmeal, especially, unsweetened oats, where I'll put, like I did this morning, I'll have a little banana, some, nuts, berries, fruit, a lot of cinnamon in there usually.
Mhm.
Those are some good breakfast. Quiche is a great one. Like a eggy pie, trying to get some wild salmon in there.
Hmm.
Those would be some like breakfast ideas. Trying to basically avoid the simple carbs that people love for breakfast, the muffins, the breakfast cereals. I'm a fan of toast occasionally, Joey. I'm just going to say it here, just to be honest with you. I feel like we have
Sourdough.
a good relationship. I'll go freaking just any, like anything that's warm and crispy from the toaster with butter on it. God, I love that. That's a great way to start the day. But that's not recommended. That's not recommended. And then usually some sort of, like everybody else, I like caffeine in the morning. And I've tried to get off of my daily coffee. And so I've switched over to green tea. I'm sorry, Earl Grey tea a lot. I don't really love the green tea. I'm okay with it. But Earl Grey, that stuff does me right. So I have a lot of Earl Grey tea throughout the day. And I'm back on the coffee. I'll have like a cup every now and then. But I kind of got off the lots of coffee thing and took maybe, it was like 3 or 4 months off of coffee for a while just to see how it was. It was
How was it?
fine.
You're okay?
It was fine. It's one of those things that, like, I think people, I think we, you tell people we're going to stop coffee and people act like, you're about to like beam to another planet or something. It's where you're going to have horrible headaches. It's going to be awful and brain fog. And I'm like, I don't know. I just think there's also the idea of like, how about not having like a little dark roasted bean control your life always? And so it's more of just wanting to have freedom and just be a slave to the tea leaves instead of the coffee bean. But
Fair
I'm
enough.
all for caffeinated better. I think dopamine's a good thing. It gets us going. And just to finish, I think lunch, then I'm a big fan of soups
Mm.
and kind of hearty salads for lunch. Different, not even just like a greens based salad, but even like a warm grains. I like to get a lot of protein in at lunch, probably minimize my carbs. I just tend to get pretty sleepy at 3 or 4 if I have a carb heavy. I like simple lunches like Mediterranean platters where I'll have like, some hummus and a little bit of feta and some olives, and trying to, again, get a lot of plants. This is also a place where I'll slide in some lox when I can, or if we had fish the night before, I'll put a little like broiled salmon on top of a salad. And then dinner is going to be, then snacks are going to be nuts and dark chocolate kind of whenever I want them, or whoever you are, who want them in terms of your brain healthy eating. And then dinner is usually going to be a lot of oven roasted veggies, all the favorites, like a lot of, for us, we've been in a big cabbage phase, cabbage leeks, purple sweet potatoes, which we'll pre-cook in the microwave, then roast in the oven. And then usually some, other grass-fed beef, or again, looking for seafood.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's going to be something like a pasta, really trying to like jazz it up with like some pesto or some seafood. And beans. I'm a big fan of beans and rice. I like beans and rice.
I'm a big bean guy myself. I went vegan for 3 months. I was vegan and gluten-free, which is actually difficult to do if you're buying like those like fake
It's
meat.
tough.
It was tough. I did it for the podcast. I had my own Facebook watch show with Juliana Hever, who's a plant-based dietitian.
How'd it go?
The funny thing is, I actually kind of liked it because I really wasn't. The only thing I was monitoring for the most part was protein. So I would have to add plant-based proteins. And so to this day, mainly I do plant-based proteins. So for 3 months, completely vegan, gluten-free. And I was just I love eating just big meals. I'd rather have 2 huge meals in a day.
Right. You could just eat a ton of, you could just chow on the plants all day.
I would have literally 2-3 cans of beans. I would have an entire bunch of asparagus, which asparagus has 15 to 20 grams for a bunch of protein. Like people don't realize that. And you got all these
top source of tryptophan too. Good for the mood.
Really good. And then they got prebiotic fiber. And so I was having that. And then on top of the beans, and obviously my digestive system took a couple of weeks to get used to that. I was even texting Juliana. I'm like, my wife's wondering when the hell I'm going to stop ripping ass. She's like, once your gut kind of gets,
once you get adjusted, and even once it adjusts, it's still a turbulent ride at times.
But after a few weeks, I actually felt amazing. I really did. I got my blood work done. My A1C went down. It was already low. It had gone down. My testosterone had gone up, which is really interesting. I think maybe I was trying to figure this out. And I think maybe because I went from, when I was shooting the TV show and stuff, I was doing a lot of like the process, like beef sticks and stuff really quick, and like all these other foods, like I was kind of grabbing fast. So maybe there was an inflammatory aspect happening with it. Maybe it just happened that I was sleeping better. I don't know. Like I can't really pinpoint what caused that, but my testosterone levels went up. So did that for a few months. And then I went plant-based, if you will. So I was still having mainly plants, but I'd still have, chicken and eggs and all this sort of stuff. Or ovo vegan, right? So I did that for quite some time, and I tried other diets for the podcast and things, but I still have probably 5 to 10 servings of greens a day, 2 to 3 servings of fruit, mainly from berries. And the funny thing is, because I went from that almost no carbs, then eating plants. I'm like, oh my God, I can have an apple. I can have blueberries. This is crazy. My wife's like, are you feeling all right? You're having fruit today.
Right.
Okay. But I felt wrong. Yeah, I felt absolutely amazing. So maybe like the phytonutrients in the fruit, like all this sort of stuff, maybe, I think that was happening.
I mean, what's interesting, I think, is also there's such debate that like one of these is right, where we can often feel good on a variety of different diets. Like I'm a good example. I did vegetarian. I don't think I did the healthiest vegetarian diet. I did it kind of a long time ago before it was popular. Yeah. And there's a lot more processed food and simple carbs in there than I needed. And so I think a lot of times when people are like, kind of thinking about their diet experience, or, it's rare that we compare like a vegan who's doing it right and feeling great with a carnivore who's doing it right and feeling great. But it's always been interesting to me that the variety of foods that the plant-based movement has opened us up to. Yep. And, and to think about brain health as really being a plant-based eating paradigm where the majority of your calories are coming from plants, but you're definitely peppering in these other foods like fermented dairy and particularly seafood, and then trying to help people with the meat debate, where it's really, for a lot of people, particularly kids, like my son, I wouldn't say he's a picky eater. It's just one of the things he really likes is steak and hamburger. And I don't know, he's a growing young 7-year-old boy. He'll definitely eat some plants and has a variety of plants he likes, but I think it's really good for his brain health to, at this stage, particularly, to be getting the nutrient concentration that you get from grass-fed beef. But it's weird. It's hard to say that without feeling like that means you're taking a stance. You're an advocate for one of these.
Right. It is really interesting. I don't know why we always have to be in this box. Like I always tell people, like, are you feeling good? Are you kicking ass in life? Then whatever the hell you're eating, whatever you're doing, keep doing that. Like just because Dr. Drew said something or Joe, or like, doesn't mean you need to go to that because this next biggest and greatest thing, maybe you can like pick and choose some of these things to incorporate, maybe add some more nuts or seeds or beans or whatever. But if you're feeling good, why would you change that? And why would you go to that? Like there's a big like regenerative farming, Bel Campo, like I get all our meat from there, grass fed, grass finished. And all the meat is like incredibly nutritious, which the same thing people know by now finally about like wild caught salmon versus the farm raised salmon, completely different in the astaxanthin levels. But people, I think, I don't know why we're just so angry about everything. Like, it's like Republican and Democrat. What does it matter? Like if you want to eat carnivore and you want to throw in some broccoli or something, go ahead. Like if you're actually eating nose to tail, like carnivore says, yeah, you can get your vitamin C from liver, but most people don't want to eat liver.